What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Young Legends podcast, where we help you get the cheat codes to the game of life. I'm your host, Caption, aka Caption Red. Our guest today is Mr. Steve VerBurg, who is an author, speaker, consultant, coach, and corporate trainer. Steve is also the co-owner of Dale Carnegie of Orange County, which specializes in helping people take command of their soft skills and change their lives. In this interview, Steve draws from the wisdom principles of Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people, and also his own life experiences. He talks about how to deal with stress, how to stop worrying and start living. He also discusses how to step into a presentation with confidence, communicate well during an argument so you win and don't lose, how to attract other people to you, and also strengthen your current relationships. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you today, sir?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Great. Well, I'm super excited about having a conversation with you about the Dale Carnegie program. I actually did 3 episodes on Dale Carnegie principles already, and I plan to get through the entire book of How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's a lot there, obviously, so it's going to take some time to get through it. So there's obviously a lot to it, but I'm so glad that you could come on and give your expertise and share about what you're doing at your program. I like to start off the interview with a cool story, a fun story, something that has happened either for you or at your program regarding Dale Carnegie principles. Is there anything that you just would like to start off and share with?
The most relevant thing for me to say there would be the reason that we actually even started doing these Dale Carnegie programs for teenagers in Orange County was I wanted my own children to have the experience of Dale Carnegie. You know, we would go out to lunch or we'd go out to dinner and we'd sit around the table and look around the restaurant and see everybody basically staring at their phones, texting or doing something else and not actually having conversations with each other. So I thought, gosh, the lost art of having a face-to-face conversation and really meeting other people. So I actually 10 years ago put these programs in place for the Orange County community. We have 5 different programs and put my kids through all 5 of them. And now they are, my oldest are juniors over at UCI. And so it's really paid off for them. They've done an outstanding job and excelled in creating long-term relationships with people around them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, to be able to have your kids have that head start and be able to be light years beyond their fellow students, I bet that feels really good.
It does. Positive feedback from the jobs that they've had. They take on summer jobs. They've had internships. The positive feedback from their employers has been, I guess, it makes me very proud as a father.
Absolutely. Very cool. So tell me why this Dale Carnegie course is so important. I've read the book. I know why it's important, but if you were sitting across from a teenager and trying to convince them to take the course and apply the principles, what does it do for them that enhances their life and their overall just success?
If I had to boil it down, I'd say the 3 main keys are that it builds greater self-confidence, which is extremely important in today's world. If you're not a confident person, people are going to, that's basically why people get bullied, right? When they don't have confidence, people hone in on them and say, okay, there's an easy target. So it gives them greater self-confidence. It allows them to communicate effectively, whether it's to their peers, whether it's to adults, teachers, future employers, what have you. And then the third key, it really strengthens relationships. It allows them to create long-lasting, strong relationships that aren't superficial, but they're real, and they're people that they can go through life with as somebody that they can count on when they need people in their lives.
Wow. All of that is just so relevant to, my life, your life, any teenager's life. That's fantastic. And one of the things I tell young people all the time is everybody wants confidence, but confidence can't be faked. It has to be earned. And
you develop confidence by doing something you've never done before successfully, right? And you do it over and over, and you become confident at doing that, whatever it is, that you develop a skill. So an easy example is people that say, I want to be a great public speaker, but I don't want to get up in front of a group and practice. I just want you to practice with me one-on-one. I say, well, if you want to be a great public speaker, you actually have to be in public speaking. So get in front of a group and talk on a regular basis, and you'll develop that confidence to be a public speaker. It doesn't just happen overnight. You have to earn the right to be confident at that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that presentations are a mortifying thing for any teenager.
Yes.
I remember being in high school and dreading giving a presentation and honestly bombing my presentations. So on that topic, what do you tell teenagers to do as far as like baby steps, and also what can they do to prepare themselves for their presentations?
Yeah, so I was in the same boat as you when I was in high school. I could barely talk to people at once without feeling self-conscious. And now I get in front of hundreds of people and do it all the time. And one of the keys is being prepared. If you have to do a talk at school, rehearse it a few times in the mirror. So you're looking at yourself. Just create bullet points. Don't write the entire thing out. That's a key thing that I even tell executives. If you write the whole thing out, you're going to be stuck on the words. And if you forget a word, then you're going to feel frustrated. You're going to be lost. Just write the key bullet points out. What am I talking to? I'm going to talk to this point, this point, and this point. And then that way, when you're rehearsing and practicing, you might say it differently 5-10 different times, but it's okay, because the key to being a successful public speaker is just to be a person who's good at conversations, not a person who's good at public speaking. You get up, you have a conversation with the audience, they think you're fantastic, you feel confident because you're trying to recite a memorized speech.
Sure. Yeah, that's great advice. And the practice thing is one of the things that I think oftentimes is overlooked. You can run it through your head, but something about verbally saying it out loud makes significant difference in the success of your presentation. So that's great. All right. So what do y'all teach in your program? Give me a run through. Like, what should students expect to experience if they were to come to your program and just go through all of it?
Okay. We actually have 5 different youth programs, so it really depends on the program you're in. They're all experiential, so you're not sitting in a classroom getting lectured to. You're actually working with partners in groups of 3, small group, large group. You get up, you work through projects and things like that. So we do things like we put stress in perspective, or energize our communications, or disagree with somebody agreeably. How do we develop more flexibility? In other words, expand our comfort zone. So we have very specific activities that can help you in different areas, or help the teenagers in different areas to really, again, develop greater self-confidence, enhance relationships, communicate more effectively. And so when you're talking about transferable skills, or skills that employers are looking for in the future, it's great to have a resume with 2 or 3 different degrees on it. But if you can't communicate to them, if you can't sit down in a job interview and express yourself, it's going to be hard to get a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny. You're going to go through job interviews throughout your whole life, which I think young people don't really think about when they're young. So that's great.
was going to say, even if it's at the company that you're currently at, you want to get a promotion, you have to sit in an interview. It's just not handed to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that I'm sure they don't expect. Now, let's go back to that disagree agreeably comment or topic. What do y'all do to help people disagree agreeably? Because that's something that will come up so frequently in any individual's life.
Yeah, so the key is we teach them a 3-step process, which is basically, what do I think? Why do I think that? What evidence do I have? That's what you think in your head before you even open your mouth. Once you've formulated, okay, what do I think? I agree, I disagree. Why do I think that? So you understand why you think, then I have the evidence. Then I can go back and I start in reverse order. I start with the evidence shows me, and therefore I think. So when we do that, we can state our opinions with credibility and disagree agreeably. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was speaking at a construction company, and I had a group of about 300, and I had a guy who was kind of heckling me in the front row. And this is when, it was an election year. Hillary Clinton was running for president the first time. And the guy in the front row says, well, what do you think about Hillary for president? Well, anybody knows that politics are a hot subject. You're basically going to alienate half your audience if you take one side or the other. So I quickly thought in my mind, what do I think? Why do I think that? What evidence do I have? And then I started with the evidence. Well, my last position, I had a vice president who was a female. She gave me the autonomy to do what I needed to do to get the job done, supported me when I needed to be supported, and was really the kind of executive that I wanted to work for. And this shows me that whether it's a male or a female, they're going to be good. They're going to be the same if it's a female or male. And therefore, I think if Hillary gets elected, she'll do just as good a job as any of the other candidates. So in stating it that way, I was able to avoid alienating the audience, not tell them my personal opinions, whether I liked her or disliked her. I just said, hey, it doesn't matter if it's a female or a male. They're going to do just as good if they're a qualified candidate who gets elected.
Yeah, that's great. And go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, that's a simple process. The what do I think? Why do I think it? What evidence do I have? And then reverse it when you talk. Start with the evidence, what the evidence shows, and therefore you think.
Yeah, that's great. I don't practice that. I think I do to some degree, but I don't do it in that order. So I'm going to start doing that myself. Speaking of which, we know that politics is a very hot topic. One of the big things about the Dale Carnegie principles is if you can avoid an argument, to do so. And so what other advice do you have for young people as far as like you want to get along with people? So there's certain things that you should avoid. And so is there anything else that you would just tell them like, hey, don't try to stay out of these kind of conversations? Although sometimes it's really difficult and sometimes it's impossible, but.
Yeah. Well, it's natural for people to have differing opinions, right? If we all thought the exact same thing and did the exact same thing, this world would be a pretty dull place. So it's okay to have different opinions. The key is that when we have a different opinion than somebody else, we really need to respect that the other person has an opinion, not attack them for their opinion, but be able to have those types of conversations where, like that formula we just talked about, the disagree agreeably can also be used for stating an opinion with credibility. I see that you feel this way or strongly about this. Here's what I think. And we always start with the evidence. If we start with the evidence, they can't argue with the evidence. If we start with, I think, they can argue with that, right? When we use even the words, I think, it raises a barrier to communication. If we start with evidence, then we can actually support our ideas with credibility and have conversations with people of differing opinions and come to consensus. In business, we say that your greatest asset is your people. Well, your people, you want them all to come to the table with different ideas and different opinions, and then you have to be able to communicate that with each other and really come to a consensus so that you make the most effective and appropriate decisions. So my advice to young people is to be open to hearing what people think, right? Don't shoot them down. State your opinions with credibility. People will be more open to hearing what you have to say, and you'll form stronger relationships and bonds with people, because you don't want people that just think exactly like you. You want people who have their own opinions, their own ideas, and their own outlook on life.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all good thoughts. So with that being said, all of that being said, let's say, for example, a teenager couldn't make it to your program, and they still need to learn the principles. They still need to practice the principles. So what would you tell a teenager who couldn't make it to the program to do so that they can sharpen themselves and walk away with a lot of the skill sets that they need in order to be successful in their current life and their future life?
Well, to learn the principles, I would read the book, the How to Win Friends and Influence People book. I know people like to listen to it on Audible and so forth, but if you read the book, you can highlight the principles. There's 30 human relations principles in that book. And then what I would say is take a principle a day and intentionally apply it. For example, principle number 1 is don't criticize, condemn, and complain. If we actively go through a day trying not to criticize, condemn, and complain about things, you'll see a big difference by the end of the day. So you take that one principle, whatever principle it is, you intentionally apply it. And when you get to the end, the 30th principle, then you start over again. And if you did that every month, every day picking a different principle, then you'll start to master these principles. And the thing about them is they're common sense principles that are not common practice. So if they actually make them common practice in their life, they're going to be the kind of person that people want to know. They're going to be the kind of person that people want to follow, so they can quickly become successful in whatever they choose to do in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like we have a product to make. It's the Dale Carnegie calendar. I'll let you go ahead and do that. That's in more your wheelhouse. So
there's an app they can download with just the principles. So if they didn't want to read the whole book, which again, I still highly recommend reading the whole book, but if they just wanted to download the app, they could just pull that app, and the app has all the principles on it.
Great. And what should they search for when they're downloading it?
It's the Golden Book. It's called the Golden Book, a Dale Carnegie Golden Book, and then the app should come up. There's also free downloads on our Dale Carnegie website if you just want a soft copy of the Golden Book.
Okay, I'll definitely make sure to link that in the show notes. So tell me about some of the major success stories of people who have come through your program and really took what they learned and just really killed it in life. Do you have any of those that you're just like, hey, this person came and we saw this transformation, and then we saw them go out there and really be successful?
Yes, we have a lot of those examples. And if we're talking about the teen programs, then great example comes to mind where a mother had called me, said her daughter was having trouble making friends, really shy, embarrassed. Do I think the program would help? And this was a child that was in middle school, so 7th grade. So she put her through the Developing a Confident, Assertive Attitude program and called me the next summer and said that her daughter had really blossomed, that she had ran for class president, won, was now.
Wow.
So she actually sent her back to all 5 programs because she was so happy with the results that her daughter had achieved. So that's one example. We have example after example of kids saying that they've been able to make friends easier it changed their life because they were able to now talk in front of groups of people, see things from their own point of view only anymore. They actually take the other person's feelings into consideration. So a lot of little things like that add up. But those examples, like the one that I gave of that girl, we see on a regular basis. We actually have several of those types of examples on our YouTube channel so that teenagers that are thinking about taking programs can hear what the other kids and their parents say straight from those kids and parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make sure to link that too. And I saw that y'all helped Miss California to be ready for her pageantry and get up on stage and talk to the world. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, so every year the winner of the Miss California then comes through the Dale Carnegie program to get ready for the next step, the next contest. And so we've had the pleasure of working with Miss California's all the way back to 2010, I believe, is when we started doing that. So for the last 9 years.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and I'm sure they feel really good when they go up on stage and are able to apply all those principles that you teach them.
They're really focused when they come in on how do I not only strengthen relationships, but how do I present with more poise? How am I professional image when I get up there on stage, that type of stuff. So that's where we're helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And I know that people are petrified of learning presentation. So that's a harder thing to sell to young people, but that's not all y'all do. And a lot of what you do is to show them the soft skills. Why are soft skills, first of all, what are soft skills and why are soft skills so important?
Well, soft skills are anything that's not technical. In other words, your leadership, your communication, your interpersonal skills, could be customer service or sales if you're talking about business people. So soft skills are, if we want to use the term good to great, right? Mm-hmm. You get 100 people in for a job, and the good ones are all going to have about the same education level. They're going to understand what's required of them, that kind of stuff. The great applicants are able to actually transfer that into a skill and have a good attitude. So attitude and skill are going to far surpass just knowledge. So when you talk about soft skills, that's your attitude and your skill that you're applying things with, your ability to communicate with other people at your job or wherever you may be. It's your ability, the skill to which that you can enhance the team and work effectively as a team. So those soft skills are what a lot of employers are looking for today that are actually not taught commonly in schools.
Sure. Yeah. And I had an interview with a gentleman that worked for a nonprofit, and he said people get hired for their technical skills or hard skills, and they get fired for their soft skills. So,
or lack of soft skills.
Right. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. And I mean, we use soft skills on an everyday basis, on a every interaction basis, honestly. So It's super important. Now, I saw on your website that that the program helps teens to cope with the stress and the pressure of their daily lives. How does the program do that?
Sure, it does it in a few different ways. First, it does teach the principles from the book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So that's another Dale Carnegie book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And it gives them basic principles for overcoming worry, analyzing worry, having a better mental attitude, cultivating peace and happiness basically in their lives. So it gives them the principles, but then going back to what we talked about before, having greater self-confidence also helps alleviate your stress. Being able to communicate and connect with other people and make friends alleviates stress. Developing your leadership skills alleviates stress. And those are all part of the Dale Carnegie program. So it's not just learning principles, but it's building those soft skills that we just talked about that help you be more confident and walk with less stress in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are all just super important things that we need to just implement in our lives. Not worrying, I think, is a huge thing that kids just need nowadays. Speaking of which, when you're a full-grown adult now, I don't know how else to phrase that, but you are, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the day, right?
That's right.
But you obviously were a teenager and a young person at one point in your life. What is one thing that you wish you could go back and say to your younger self that you think would have vastly improved your life at that age of being a high schooler?
Again, going back to what we talked about earlier, I was petrified to talk to groups of 3, 4, 5 people at a time. I would oftentimes spend lunch because I didn't want to get into those conversations. So if I had to give myself advice going back, I would say, stop thinking that other people are judging you. If you truly understood that they're worried about the exact same things you are, they're worried about how they look and how they act and how they talk. They're not worrying about how you look, you act, and you talk about themselves. So stop thinking that people are judging you and just start enjoying life. Too many years for a lot of young people are spent trying to fit in or are worried about what other people think about them instead of just saying, hey, this is who I am, being honest with themselves about who they are and just walking with that integrity of knowing I am who I am and I'm not going to try and be somebody else just so that I can fit in with you.
Sure, that's great advice. And it's funny that you're telling yourself, hey, nobody's thinking about you. I mean, it's, that's a positive thing. It's like, so nobody's thinking about you. They're actually thinking about themselves. Don't worry about what they're thinking about you. That's funny. That's great. And going back to that whole conversation or going back to talking to your teenage self, what is a success principle or a success habit that you have implemented in your life that you think that everybody should just know that if they knew it, it would significantly improve their life and their overall well-being?
Well, I'll go back to the how to stop worrying and start living techniques. There's 2 that I typically use all the time. First is a fundamental principle for overcoming worry, and that's live in day-tight compartments. And what that means is if something bad happens to you, say at home before you go to school, leave it at home. Don't take it to school with you. Something happens at school, leave it at school. Don't take it back home to you. Same with work, right? You go from project to project, meeting to meeting, activity to activity. Leave the things where they are. Don't drag them into your next conversation, your next meeting, your next project. So that's fundamental principle number 1, I would say. And the second is a basic technique for analyzing worry, and that's just ask yourself, what is the problem? What are the causes of the problem? What's the best possible solution of the problem? And then act on it. So again, those are from the book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, but they really are principles that I use all the time and can help people manage their stress, their worry, and be more productive in life.
That's all really good. And we both know that worrying fixes nothing. It just robs us of our joy. And I tell young people all the time, I'm like, look, you shouldn't worry. You should try to fix the problem, but otherwise don't think about the problem. Work through that and try to find a remedy instead of worrying about it. And the first part, I loved what you said, because there's this quote infographic I've seen where it says, Was it a bad day, or was it a bad 5 minutes that you milked all day?
Yeah, there you go.
And, yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny how you can let one little thing happen and just ruin the entire day. It's just like, no, we're not doing that. Let's get over it quickly and keep moving. That's great.
Yeah, and you see that time after time. People, you'll come in, you'll say, "How you doing?" They'll say, "Oh, first thing this morning, this happened to me." Well, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. Why are you still talking about it?
Right. Absolutely. That's great. All right. Well, we're getting close to finishing the interview, Steve. Are there any final thoughts that you would like to share that we may not have talked about, but you feel like this definitely needs to be heard by young people? Anything that you feel on your heart to share?
I would just say that today, more than ever, it's important for them to really practice having those face-to-face conversations. It's easy to get sucked into spending all day on your cell phone or playing video games at the computer. I told you my boys are in college, but there were several times I went and I'd see them on their computer. I'd say, "Hey, why don't you hang out with your friends?" They'd say, "All their friends are here online. They don't need to go out and see them face to face." There's a different relationship when you see people face to face, and you can have those conversations and laugh, and you can go shoot the basketball or do whatever, than sitting for hours closed up in your room on a video game or on a cell phone, chatting, texting back and forth. Have those face-to-face interactions whenever you can, because those skills, you'll develop habits, the habits of being able to form good relationships, and those habits will help you to be more successful in life. Very few people have the job where you just sit in a room by yourself your entire life and never have to interact with anybody. And probably even fewer people want to have that job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was about to say that. I was like, oh, man, that sounds miserable. Yeah, it's so important. Put the phone down, put the device down, and have a real interaction. That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Steve, I do this thing called freestyle rapping. The kids seem to like it. The adults seem to like it as well. So I'm just going to do a little freestyle rap based on our conversation right here.
Okay.
All right. Let's go. Yo, chat. I'm coming out the top. Words that I drop, it ain't hard to see. You need Carnegie up in your mind, telling you the principles. You are an individual that needs to shine, and that's what I say. You gotta spend time making yourself better. That's how you do. Come on through, learn a thing or two, put it up in practice, and that's what I say. You gotta speak in public every single day. You gotta go through a whole bunch of interactions. That's what I say. Yo, we're just tracking a whole bunch of things that we gotta have, like a good attitude. Yo, come straight through with the gratitude. When I be speaking a whole bunch of things, people that I'm reaching every single day. I got to be a boss still, come with them soft skills all the time. So I have people understand my mind. I could come through with a bunch of communication. That's what I'm saying. With a bunch of rhymes. That's what I say. Yo, we gotta find ourselves by blossoming. Get that confidence. And that's what I say. It is common sense, but it's not common practice. Spit a freestyle. And yo, I come through. I need to be attractive to other people so I can grow. And that's what I say. Up in the flow. Steve VerBurg dropped a bunch of knowledge, help you to blossom and go to college. And that's what I say. Spit rhymes all day. And that's what I say with this thing that I slay. Spit off the top. And that's how I go. And that's what I said with a freestyle flow.
Nice.
So, Steve, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks so much for sharing your insight and your knowledge, and just continuing to make this world just sharper and improving people. So people can find you online or find the program online. Can you tell us where they can find you, and also when y'all are running your programs and everything that you're doing?
You can visit us at carnegieteens.com. That's CarnegieTeens.com. EENS.com, all one word. That's our teen programs. For our adult programs, it's just dalecarnegie.com. And our teen programs are run over the summer. So any programs are listed now, and they can reserve a space if they want in any of those programs currently. So our office is located off the 55 in Dyer, near the Santa Ana Airport in Orange County, California. And currently we have 2 programs going for homeschoolers. So if you are a homeschooler, you can look those up through your homeschooling associations. And other than that, we also do private school and programs at school locations when requested by the schools. So we're open to any and all of that. They can look us up and give us a call if they have any questions.
Absolutely. That's great. And you're right there in Orange County, California.
Yes.
Do you ever think about taking your program to the Real Housewives of Orange County? Because I think they need
I will admit that I've never watched an episode, so I wouldn't even know where to find them if I could. But I've never watched an episode.
Okay, well, yeah, you might want to reach out to them. They are in dire need.
Okay, I'll take that as an action item.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, Steve, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to sharing this interview, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so our guest was Mr. Steve VerBurg. You can contact him through carnegieteens.com. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. And until next time, peace out.